Coach, thanks for your time. I was wondering about this morning, a group of parents went downtown to the governor's office. They filed a petition. I think they said they had 96 signatures. They're trying to get the governor to change his mind and allow parents into the game on Saturday. Would you like to see parents in the stadium? Are you behind them with trying to get that overturned and let them come see their kids play?
Absolutely. I mean, I understand there's rules and regulations and you don't want to open up Pandora's box for everybody. But this seems like there should be a little flexibility when you see a lot of people hanging out on a patio at a bar, but you can't have 500 parents in a 60,000 seat stadium. That doesn't make a lot of sense, you know? So these kids have been through a lot. Their parents have, like all of us that have kids, have been watching them go through a lot. And for most of their lives, they've been able to watch them play in person. And I think it would be a great thing for that to happen. We are allowed to use, at this time, the 50 tickets that we can use for our parents. And so our seniority kind of our travel roster, we've gone from players with 1 year left to players with 2 years left and just down the line until we filled those 50 seats. So that's what we're doing right now. And obviously I'd love to see them all in there. Hopefully that'll happen for this game. If not, then I know they said they were going to reevaluate it after September.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Brett, what do you have?
Dave, I know these things fluctuate from day to day because of testing, but as of right now, how many players do you anticipate having available on Saturday? And how does that compare to, say, the lowest amount that you had at any time during camp?
Let me look. We had 105 guys today, and that's not all COVID related. Some guys are out with ankle sprains and things like that. But and that's the highest we've been. When we started back after the 8-day break, we had 45 players at practice. And I think we gained about 10 players back per day, really, after that. So a week later, we were up to 84, I think, after September 1st. But we're in a good place. I mean, for the most part, the 105 that we'll have that are available to play have been able to practice all week. Nobody got out of quarantine yesterday and is totally out of shape. We haven't had any of that. And if they were, we wouldn't put them out there. But we feel good about, the depth chart you guys have is all those guys have been at practice.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Gibby, what you got?
Yeah, Coach, a couple of days ago, we talked with Ricky Person, and he talked about how injuries really got him down. He was to a point where he was thinking about quitting. I know that's a delicate situation for coaches to address that, but how did you help him through that a little bit? And now that he's back, I'm sure you're proud of him because he seems to be doing quite well.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky's actually going to be we have 4 captains, and then each week I'll have a game captain if somebody, is showing leadership on our team, and Ricky will be our 5th captain for this game. And it's interesting you say that because that's really why, he's been through a lot physically. And as an athlete, when you have things that prevent you from playing the sport you've been playing since 5 years old and now it's not available to you, it's really hard on them mentally. It's hard on, their personality, their confidence, their mental health. And so Ricky had a lot of those ups and downs due to things out of his control. And what happens when you're repetitively injured is you lose training time. You lose that 8 weeks with Thunder. You lose 15 straight practices in the spring, and it's hard to develop. And so that set him back. But to his credit, he came back in January and has done an outstanding job, not only in our program in the wintertime, but keeping himself in shape over the quarantine period we had, and then putting together a really solid fall camp where he didn't miss a single day. So I'm happy for him and excited for what that'll do for him, personally, mentally. And I know as a former athlete, when I hurt my Achilles, it's hard. I mean, it's really hard when you're taken away from the field, away from your teammates, away from the meetings. And as far as helping him through it, I think it was a joint effort. I think there was a lot of people in this building that helped him, from our coaching staff to the strength staff to his parents, to our trainers, to mental health, you name it. I think these players have a lot of people around them that are here for them and want to help them through those types of situations.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Luke.
Hey, Dave. As you're kind of gotten to the opener here, although we saw this morning anything can happen. What's been the most difficult or challenging thing to manage? You've obviously had these players who have missed practice, but you've also had to kind of come up with a fall camp on the fly and change your schedule around. What have been sort of the challenges you didn't expect, and how have you tried to manage them?
I think the day-to-day change in schedule was the hardest thing for the players, and they're just used to routine this time of year. For me, it was the contact tracing piece that was the hardest. You know, you'd have one kid who was asymptomatic eat lunch, and 3 guys might have been around him when he ate, and they have passed their COVID test. They feel great, and they can't come to the building for 14 days. And so that happened a lot over that period when the students came back. You know, there was a lot of guys. And as you guys know, there's symptoms that are basically the same symptom for almost everything out there that we could have, which you have to bring the kid out, and then who's he been around until they pass a test to show they don't have it. So from a runny nose to a scratchy throat to a headache, you name it. And my recollection of fall camp is I had a headache every day as a player, you know, so that was hard. I mean, because obviously our drills are based on our numbers, and how many reps you're going to take is based on our numbers. And you never want to try to push these guys to a point where you're having soft tissue injuries because you're doing too much. And so that was really challenging for us as a staff. And it was something that we embraced, to be honest. We talked about embracing the suck. I mean, that's really what it was at some times. And the guys were good. Just try to find solutions and not be someone that sits around and be more negative in a negative situation.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Justin, wait.
Thanks for your time this afternoon, Coach. Considering the disruptions over the offseason with fall camp, and considering you're starting with an ACC opponent, how many times, or how do you feel about the situational reps that you've been able to get over the past couple weeks with 2-minute drills and stuff like that?
Yeah. We've spent a lot of time, I would say, in the last 10 days on situational football. When we came out of that eight-day thing and only had 45 guys there, we couldn't do things like that, you know, so we really had to wait until we had enough players, which was really about a week later, I think around the 7th. So that was about 10 days ago. And every single day we've had a 2-minute drill. We've worked on third down. We've worked on red zone. We've worked on game-ending situations. So are we where we want to be? I think we've done as much as we can. I think we need to go play football now, you know, and kind of see where we're at and how much it's absorbed and how they handle it under the lights.
Thanks.
Corey Smith.
Hey, Coach, for when it comes to the positions that you have on the field, obviously you talked a lot about having to rotate players around and having to move different positions. How confident do you feel in the stability of where guys are at this point heading into the season with, you know, the injuries and different things going on?
Are you asking me, am I feeling good about our depth, or not sure what?
Yes, not only that, but also just the positions, players being in the positions where they're going to stay for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, we've cross-trained, as you know, in case we lose players. Depth chart you have is where we're at, and we feel good about that depth chart. We need to see the guys play now. We need to tackle and catch and hang on to the ball and protect it as a quarterback, all those. But the depth that you have is where we're at. We feel confident. There are some guys on that depth chart that haven't been back for 2 weeks. You know, you've been back for 10 days. And so we don't expect them to be able to play a whole game. We're going to have to rotate in those positions. And I'm not going to put a young man out there and ask him to do something that he's not ready to do, you know. So we will use depth as our friend in some position groups. There's other spots like Joe Sculthorpe and Grant Gibson where Ricky Person, they've played the entire camp and they're in great shape. So, you know, that rotation in those spots, for an example, we feel great about that. But other spots, we're going to have to use our depth.
Thank you.
Mike Tober.
Hey, Coach, it almost feels weird after all those questions to ask you about a rivalry type situation here, but coming in with Wake Forest, considering how things played out the last time they were in Carter Finley, as the week has progressed, have you guys addressed kind of, what it would mean to kind of give it back to them on your home field, or has that really not been talked about at all?
Yeah, we had a team meeting on Sunday, starting the week, and talked about the rivalry. Um, as we know, it's the longest standing consecutive played rivalry in the country. And based on what happens here with some of these games out west, they may not play those rivalries, and we could end up being the longest standing consecutive game. So it's been played since 1910. There's a lot of history in it. They've beaten us 3 years in a row. Prior to that, we beat them 3 years in a row. So both teams have kind of had their opportunities for most part. They've been pretty close games. I know last year's wasn't, but our guys know what this game's about. It's an in-state game. It's an opportunity to play a team, down the road that we have a lot of respect for. They have a good program. Coach Clausen and his staff do a tremendous job, and we look forward to competing against them.
All right. Are there any more questions?
Jonas?
Yep.
Yep, I got one more. Annabelle, you missed me when I raised my hand. Coach, I know a lot of times coaches make hand signals and stuff like that for loud stadiums, but because it's going to be an empty stadium, so quiet, do you do that? Do you keep doing it because you don't want Wake Forest to hear your calls and pick up on a pattern or anything like that?
Well, it's not empty. We got some sweet cutouts in there right now. I think there's like 600 of them. And I am proud to say my dog is one of them. It's pretty awesome. But no, we have hand signals because our guys have to be able to communicate, assuming they can't hear each other. And I know this is a unique year, but if we're trying to yell something to the far side of the field, even with no crowd noise, that corner may not hear us. So we have to be able to hand signal. Same thing from quarterback to out. And it allows you to play faster from sideline player as well.